As a stock video producer, you need a streamlined workflow to create compelling and marketable footage. There's a lot of thought and work going into conceptualizing, storytelling, planning, filming, editing, coloring, exporting, and adding metadata to your assets. The last thing you need is to get stuck in the post-production phase and delay the monetization of your hard work. In today's tutorial, we'll go through a complete post-production workflow from ingestion to exporting high-quality video for your Stocksy portfolio. On top of that, we'll learn a few tips and tricks using the most recent version of DaVinci Resolve 18. Before importing your footage, let's look at a few critical project master settings in Resolve 18. There are only a few, but they are very efficient in streamlining your workflow. Set your timeline resolution to 1920 by 1080 HD even when working with higher resolution sources like 4, 6 or 8K. This will be a working resolution which is a digestible size even for less robust systems and will help you with smooth playback. During the delivery phase, we'll switch back to the original source resolution for each clip on your timeline. The next step is to set your project's primary timeline frame rate. Ideally, this should match the same frame rate as your majority source clips and target exports. So for instance, if you filmed your clips at 24 frames per second and intend to export with a 24 frames per second rate, set the project timeline frame rate to 24 frames per second. The project timeline frame rate will be locked after you import the clips and create your first timeline, so remember to do this before. Set your cache location to your fastest storage volume. This typically defaults to the path you specified in the media storage location in Preferences. Finally, you can save these settings as a default preset so you will always have them ready each time you start a new project. The media page in Resolve is the primary interface where all media imports and organization happen. Here you can intuitively organize and sort your media into bins, smart bins, and power bins independent of your storage location folder structure. You can manually create your project-specific bin structure or import the physical folder structure from your storage location by selecting Add Folder and Subfolder into Media Pool. We've created a dedicated episode on media management, which you can watch from the link above. If you happen to import high frame rate clips intended for slow motion manipulation, you will get a Change Project Frame Rate warning, which you should not change so you can keep the previously set project frame rate. To conform high frame rate clips intended for slow motion to your current timeline frame rate, select them and click on Clip Attributes. Choose your current timeline frame rate from the Video Frame Rate box and click OK. The clips will now play back in slow motion and have the timeline frame rate you specified. Also consider using proxy media instead of working with the original camera sources. This will speed up your playback considerably if you are on a less powerful system. We've made a dedicated tutorial on proxy files which you can watch from the link above. Editing and prepping a set for stock media shouldn't take much time. Considering that you've dealt with concealing trademarks on set and ensuring that you have signed model and property releases, it's a matter of choosing the best moments from your footage. Check for technical issues, such as stabilizing shaky footage, lens distortion, artificial light flickering, object or logo removals, branding, and noise reduction. We've created a video on how to deal with these problem clips, which you can watch from the link above. You can work on the Edit page, a traditional non-linear editor, or use the Cut page instead, which is designed for fast editing and works exceptionally well with DaVinci Speed Editor. It has a streamlined set of tools that are easy to use and great for stock video production. Start a new timeline from the File menu or use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl+N on Windows or Command+N on Macs and give it a name. Select the bin with your footage, then use the source tape to view all the clips in a bin as a continuous sequence. Use your J, K, and L keyboard shortcuts to navigate and the I and O keys to mark in and out points for your selections. Next, drop your selection on the timeline with the F9 key. Use these keyboard shortcuts to go through all the clips in your bin, then review your timeline by pressing Q and navigating through it with the J, K, and L keys. We've produced a detailed video on speed editing in the Cut page which you can check from the link above. Fine-tune your timeline edits, mute the audio on your timeline track, add stabilization or lens correction if needed, and you're ready for color grading. Before doing any color adjustments, we need to talk about color management. We've talked about color management at the node level before, but this time we'll make it even easier and scalable for any type of camera source you might be working with. The main goal here is to efficiently bring your log footage to a normalized base grade from where you can continue with minor adjustments and touch-ups. Head to the Color Management tab in your project settings, switch the color science to DaVinci YRGB Color Managed, uncheck the Automatic Color Management box, and select Custom from the Color Processing mode. Next, do the following. Input color space. Set it to whatever sources you are working with. In my case, it's primarily B-RAW footage from a Pocket 6K Pro camera and a few Sony S-Log2, so I'll set it to Blackmagic Design Film Gen 5 because that's the bulk of the footage I have on my timeline. Timeline color space. Set it to DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. Timeline working luminance. Set it to custom and 10,000 nits. Output color space Rec 709, Gamma 2.4. Input DRT to none. And output DRT, set it to luminance mapping. Hit save and you will notice the image will normalize with a base grade that resolve correctly applies to each specific source. You will notice that not all clips were transformed with this change or have the proper transformation applied. And that's because not all clips on my timeline contain camera metadata, which is needed to identify the camera-specific input color space correctly. We will need to specify the proper input color space for those clips manually. The Sony S-Log2 footage contains no color primary metadata, so the system applied the default input color space we specified earlier in the project settings. To change that, select the correct color space transform as Gamut S-Log2. Here I have two more clips from a GoPro camera and an iPhone. Notice how both had the Rec 709 input color space applied according to the color primaries metadata embedded in the QuickTime format of these files. The advantage of using this automatic color management setup is that your images will be brought to a base grade that will need zero or minimal adjustments considering they were correctly exposed and white balanced in camera. We produce many color grading videos if you wish to learn more from the link above. So once we've color graded our series, it is time to export our clips and prep them to upload to Stocksy. The goal here is to produce the best quality video at a bandwidth digestible file size. You can choose between H.264 or Apple ProRes 422 compression codecs, depending on the source bitrate you are working with, 8-bit or 10-bit and greater respectively. Again, we have a video tutorial detailing these export settings from the link above. If you are a PC user, we have a tip on creating high-resolution ProRes 422 files using Shutter Encoder. The delivery page has many export presets, but we'll make a custom one to save time for future series. Pick a location for your graded exports and choose individual clips. Select QuickTime format, DNxHR codec, and DNxHR HQX 12-bit. For Mac users, choose QuickTime for the format, Apple ProRes for codec, and Apple ProRes 422HQ for type. Check Render at source resolution to export the original resolution for each clip on your timeline regardless of the main project timeline resolution. Expand the Advanced Settings section and check Force Sizing and Debayer to highest quality when working with raw footage. On the Audio tab, deselect Export Audio since Stocksy requires clips to be submitted without accompanying audio. On the File tab, select Source Name to preserve the original clip naming, then use Unique File Names and choose Suffix to append a unique name for each file. If you intend to export ungraded videos later, specify a folder name for your graded files in the File subfolder to create a subdirectory grouping them separately in the location you specified earlier. Lastly, click Add to Render Queue and press Render All. Save these settings as a render preset from the three dots at the top to reuse it later from the custom preset options at the top menu. PC users will need an extra step to encode the exported DNxHR files to Apple ProRes 422HQ using a third-party free app called Shutter Encoder. We have a full tutorial on how to do this from the link above. As an option, considering that your source was filmed in a log gamma curve like BRAW, VLOG, or SLOG, you can upload your ungraded match to your already uploaded graded clips. To export the log files, you can use the same settings as for your previous graded files, but with the following differences. Set the Enable Flat Pass to Always On in the Video tab to disable the grade on every clip rendered. On the File tab, name the subfolder Ungraded to have all log files grouped separately from the graded ones. Click on Add to Render Queue and start your export. Your ungraded video files will be exported to the ungraded folder. As before, save your settings in a preset from the three-dot menu. For PC users, again, you will need to convert the DNxHR videos to Apple ProRes 422HQ as with the graded files using Shutter Encoder. Do you have any questions or suggestions about your stock media workflow? Submit them in the comments below. We read and reply to each. If you're interested in joining Stocksy as a contributor, go ahead and submit your portfolio using the link in the description. We would love you to be a part of it. Please subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you in the next one.